The biggest tech companies in the United States bracing for some sweeping regulations in the EU to go into full effect in the spring, violations that could result in some hefty fines. Our Steve Kovach here at Post 9 with more on today's Tech Check. Steve.
Hey, guys. Yeah, big tech companies, they're bracing for these sweeping regulations, and they're going to go into full effect next year. Some parts are already in effect right now. We're talking about the Digital Markets Act and the Digital Services Act. This is going to impact all the important tech companies we talk about so much: Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, and Meta. All of those names designated as gatekeepers, meaning they're subject to these new laws, and the most important ones to start in March of 2024. So let me break down some examples of what we can expect to happen here. For Apple and Google, for example, third-party app stores will need to be allowed as defaults or just alternatives on these various platforms. On the Meta side and other messaging services like iMessage, they need to be interoperable, meaning you have to be able to talk to each other across those different messaging platforms. Now, there was one report recently saying iMessage could be exempt from those regulations, but we're going to have to wait a few more months to find out if that one's true. And companies like Google and Amazon, well, they can't favor their own products over others. For example, you search for toilet paper on Amazon, it has to show you Charmin or something else instead of just the Amazon brand. Much more, all things opponents to big tech dominance have been asking for. That's the Spotifys and Matches of the world. And it goes to the heart of their lucrative business models, high margins in these services, of course. Already seeing this in action with EU's investigation into X over content moderation around the Israel and Hamas war. Posts on that site. Facebook has also gotten some questions about that as well. Now, the next big question going into 2024 and these laws: how can these big tech companies get around or weaken those rules? There are already some reports about how Apple's thinking of doing that. But look, the punishment is huge, up to 10% of their global revenue, not just EU revenue, 10% of global revenue. For example, for Apple, that's, close to $40 billion. So a lot at stake here if they break these rules.
What's at stake for these companies to be in compliance? I mean, how big of a deal is it, say, for an Amazon to not have its own product favored, or how big of a deal is it for an Apple to not be, having?
I think it's the biggest for Apple. They have been fighting tooth and nail to keep their App Store system under guard, under protection. We've seen this in the lawsuit with Epic Games. We've seen this in so many different examples. But now the EU has just gone ahead and leapfrogged all those conflicts we've been seeing here in the United States. Now it's going to actually take effect. Keep in mind, Apple, it behooves them to keep the App Store controlled. They get those high margins. They get a cut of every transaction that happens within those ecosystems. Opening it up just makes it free reign for other companies to come in. Microsoft, by the way, they're eager for this. They want to open up a gaming store on the iPhone, and this is their opportunity to do it in the EU.